She had been in labor for 6 days, not 6 hours, not one night, 6 full days of pain. The doctors had checked everything. They said the baby is fine. They said the mother is strong. But still, the baby refused to come out. On the 3rd day, they called the elders. On the 4th day, they called the herbalist. By the 5th day, even the herbalist was afraid. He stood in the middle of the room, looked at everyone, and began to weep. He said, "I cannot help this woman. This is not sickness. This is not medicine." Then he pointed at her stomach and whispered, "This child is refusing to be born into a house full of lies." That night, the baby spoke. But before we go back to how it all began, pause for a moment. Like this video, subscribe, and tell me where you're watching from. I want to know who is sitting with me for this story. In the quiet outskirts of a wealthy town, there stood a large compound that people spoke about with both admiration and caution. It belonged to a man named Balogun. Balogun was not just rich, he was respected. The kind of man elders greeted first, the kind of man whose words carried weight in the village council. His house was always clean, always busy, always full of life. But behind the tall gates and painted walls, not everything was peaceful. 2 years ago, Balogun's first wife, Titi, had died suddenly. They said it was illness, a strange one, fast and unforgiving. Before anyone could understand what was happening, she was gone. She left behind 2 children, a boy and a girl, both still very young. Since then, the compound had never truly felt whole again. After a long period of mourning, Balogun remarried. Her name was Funmi. Funmi was young, gentle, and kind-hearted. She had loved Balogun before he even noticed her. When he finally chose her as his wife, she stepped into the home with humility, determined to care for him and his children. She tried. She truly did. She cooked for the children, spoke to them softly, gave them space when they needed it. But children are not fools. They remembered their mother. And though they were polite, there was always a quiet distance in their eyes. Watching everything was Mama Balogun, Balogun's mother. She was a woman no one argued with, always dressed neatly, always composed, always in control. Even when she said nothing, her presence filled the room. In that house, everyone knew one truth. Mama Balogun was the real authority. Funmi respected her, feared her a little too, but she did her best to be a good daughter-in-law. Time passed, and soon, good news came. Funmi was pregnant. The entire compound celebrated. Even Mama Balogun smiled more often. It felt like joy had finally returned to the house. But sometimes, joy hides things, and sometimes it sits on top of secrets. Now, the day had come. Or rather, it had come and refused to go. Funmi had been in labor for 6 days. 6 long, painful, exhausting days. Her body was tired. Her voice was weak from screaming. Her strength was leaving her little by little. The midwives tried everything. The doctors came and went. They checked the baby. They said it is healthy. They checked Funmi. They said she is strong. So why was the baby not coming? On the 3rd day, whispers began. On the 4th day, fear entered the compound. By the 5th day, even the strongest hearts began to shake. That was when they called the herbalist. He was an old man known for handling cases that had no explanation. If something had a spiritual cause, he would know. He arrived quietly, looked at Funmi, closed his eyes, touched her stomach. Then he stepped back. Something in his face had changed. Everyone watched him, waiting, hoping. But what he said next made the air in the room turn cold. I cannot help this woman. There was murmuring, confusion, fear. What do you mean? One of the aunties asked. The herbalist shook his head slowly. This is not sickness. He looked around the room, at Mama Balogun, at Balogun, at the house girls standing at the corner, at the walls themselves as if they were listening. Then he spoke again. This child is not refusing to be born. He paused, and his voice dropped. This child is refusing to be born into a house full of lies. Silence. Complete silence. Even the air seemed to stop moving. No one spoke. No one knew what to say. Balogun frowned, confused. Mama Balogun's face did not change. The herbalist picked up his bag. I will not interfere in what I do not understand, he said quietly. And then he left. That night, the compound did not sleep. Funmi lay on the bed, breathing slowly, her body weak, her mind drifting in and out. She thought she was dying. She thought maybe this was how it ended. Slowly, painfully, with questions that had no answers. Then, sometime after midnight, she heard it. A voice, soft, calm, clear, from within her. Mama? Funmi's eyes opened wide. Her heart began to race. She looked around the room. No one. Just shadows. Just silence. She swallowed hard. Mama? The voice came again. This time clearer, closer, from within her own body. Funmi's lips trembled. Who is there? She whispered. There was a pause. Then the voice replied, I am here. Funmi froze. Her breath caught in her throat. Her hands gripped the bedsheet tightly. I am your child. Tears filled her eyes immediately. This was not normal. This was not possible. This was not real. But the voice, it did not sound like madness. It did not sound like fear. It was calm, too calm. Mama, the voice said again gently. Are you listening? Funmi nodded slowly, even though no one could see her. Yes, she whispered. There was a short silence. Then the words came, clear, steady, unshaking. They must tell the truth. Funmi's brows tightened in confusion. What truth? She asked weakly. The voice did not rush. It did not panic. It simply answered, all of them. Funmi's breathing became heavier. Her heart pounded harder. All of them? She repeated. Yes. A pause. And then the final words that made her blood run cold. Call them one by one, or I cannot come. Funmi's eyes filled with tears. Her body shook. Not from pain this time, but from fear. Because deep inside her, she knew this was not a dream, and whatever truth was hiding in that house was about to come out.
The night grew deeper. The compound was quiet, but no one was sleeping. Inside the room, Funmi lay on the bed, weak and sweating, her body tired from days of labor. But her eyes were open now, wide, alert, because the voice had returned. Mama, it said softly. Funmi swallowed. I am here, she whispered. There was a short pause. Then the voice spoke again. Call her. Funmi's heart began to beat faster. Who? She asked. Call Mama Risi. Funmi turned her head slowly toward the door. Her voice was weak, but urgent. "Call Mama Risi." The women in the room looked at each other in confusion, but no one argued, not anymore. They brought her in. Mama Risi, the oldest house girl, stepped into the room slowly. Her hands were shaking. Funmi did not know what to say. Then the voice whispered again. "Ask her what she saw in the kitchen the night before Titi fell ill." Funmi's lips trembled, but she repeated it. "Mama Risi, what did you see in the kitchen the night before Titi became ill?" Silence. Mama Risi froze. Her eyes widened. Then, suddenly, she began to cry. "I did not mean to hide it. I was afraid." Everyone in the room moved closer. "I saw Mama Balogun in the kitchen that night," she continued. "She was preparing a special tea. She told me it was for Madame Titi's stomach." She wiped her tears. "I believed her. I did not question it. Until the next day, when Madame Titi fell ill." The room grew still. "I wanted to speak," she said, shaking her head. "But I was afraid. I kept quiet for 2 years. Funmi closed her eyes briefly. Her breathing became heavier. The voice spoke again. "Call the next one." Funmi opened her eyes. "Bring Kemi." Kemi entered quickly and already afraid. She had heard. The voice did not wait this time. "Ask her about the letter." Funmi spoke immediately. "Kemi, what letter?" Kemi broke instantly. She fell to her knees. "I am sorry. I am sorry." The room filled with murmurs. "What letter?" someone demanded. Kemi was shaking. "After Madame Titi died, I was given money to destroy a letter she wrote." Gasps filled the room. "But I could not burn it," she continued. "I was afraid. I hid it inside my sleeping mat." "Bring it," Funmi whispered. Kemi ran out. Moments later, she returned with a folded paper. Old, worn. She handed it over with trembling hands. Balogun, who had been standing outside, was called in. He stepped into the room slowly. Funmi looked at him. "Read it," she said softly. Balogun opened the letter. His hands began to shake as his eyes moved across the words. Then he read aloud. "If something happens to me, it is not illness. I have been careful with what I eat, but I cannot be careful all the time. I am afraid of the woman in this house. I love my husband, but I am afraid. God forgive us all." Silence. Deep. Heavy. Balogun lowered the letter slowly. His face had changed. The voice spoke again. "Ask him." Funmi looked at her husband. "Did you notice anything before she died?" Balogun's lips parted. For a moment, he said nothing. Then he spoke quietly. "She told me she was afraid." The room held its breath. "She said it once, very softly. I told her she was imagining things." His voice cracked. "I told her my mother would never harm her." He looked down at the letter in his hand. "I told her to rest." He closed his eyes. And in that moment,
Everyone understood. He had not missed the truth. He had seen it and chosen not to believe it. And now, it was too late. The room was silent. No one moved. No one spoke. Then the voice came again. Soft, calm, final. Now, bring her. Funmi's heart began to race. Her lips trembled. She already knew the name. She didn't want to say it, but she had no choice. Call Mama Balogun, she whispered. A heavy silence fell across the room. Someone went to get her. Moments later, Mama Balogun entered. She walked slowly in, her back straight, her face calm. Her eyes moved around the room. She saw Mama Risi. She saw Kemi. She saw the letter lying on the floor. Then she looked at her son, Balogun, and for a brief moment, something passed through her eyes, but it was gone quickly. She walked forward and sat down, slowly, like someone who had already made peace with what was coming. Then she spoke. How long has the baby been speaking to her? No one answered. The silence was too heavy. She nodded slightly. I knew, she said quietly. From the moment this child was conceived, I knew this was not an ordinary child. Funmi's body trembled on the bed. The voice was quiet now, watching, waiting. Mama Balogun took a deep breath. Then she said it. I did it. A sharp breath escaped from someone in the room. I gave her the tea. Titi. Her voice did not shake. Her face did not break. Titi was going to destroy this family. She was speaking to lawyers. She had found documents, business documents, things that would have put my son in prison. Balogun's head snapped up. His eyes widened. I did what a mother must do, she said firmly. I protected my child. The room was frozen. But then, the voice spoke again. Ask her, what documents? Funmi's eyes opened slowly. What documents? She repeated weakly. For the first time, Mama Balogun hesitated. Just a little. That has nothing to do with... Ask her again, the voice said, calm, unmoving. Ask her whose documents they were. Funmi's breathing became heavier. Whose documents? She whispered. Balogun leaned forward. His voice was no longer strong. Mama, what documents? Mama Balogun looked at him, and this time, she did not look away. The love in her eyes was real, deep, painful, which made her next words even terrible. They were mine. Silence. I had another business, she continued slowly. Money was being moved, quietly. Titi discovered it when she was handling the accounts. Balogun's face went still. She was not trying to destroy you, she said. She was going to tell you to protect you, so you would not be dragged into it. Her voice dropped slightly. But if she spoke, everything would be exposed. Funmi's eyes filled with tears. So I stopped her. The words fell like stones. Heavy. Final. I told myself I was protecting my son. She paused, then whispered, but I was protecting myself. No one moved. No one breathed. Balogun stared at his mother, and she stared back. The look between them was something no child should ever give, and no parent should ever deserve. Then suddenly, Funmi screamed. A loud, sharp cry. Her body jacked. "The baby!" the midwife shouted. Everything changed at once. The women rushed forward. "Push! Push!" they cried. Funmi screamed again, and this time there was no struggle, no delay, no resistance. Within moments, the cry of a newborn filled the room, loud, clear, alive. The baby had come. The truth had been told.
The baby was a girl. She came into the world quietly, as if nothing had happened. No struggle, no delay. Just one strong cry, and silence returned to the room. The midwife cleaned her gently, then paused. She looked closer. Then she whispered almost to herself, "These eyes are too alert for a newborn." The room fell still again. No one argued, because everyone could see it. The child was watching, not like a baby, like someone who understood. By morning, the compound had changed. The truth had already begun its work. Mama Balogun was taken away, first to the village council, then to the authorities. No shouting, no resistance. She walked quietly, like someone who knew her time had ended. The hidden business was uncovered. The money, the lies, everything. And soon, Titi's death was no longer a mystery. It became a case, a truth that could no longer be buried. Balogun did not speak much after that. He moved like a man carrying something too heavy for words. He was not only mourning Titi, he was mourning his mother. Not the woman she had become, but the woman he thought she was. And that kind of loss is the hardest to explain. That night, in the compound, to their own, the day was darkening into evening. For the first time, in a long time, the compound was quiet, real quiet. No whispers, no fear, just stillness. Funmi sat on the bed, her back resting against the wall, her baby wrapped gently in her arms. The house girls were asleep. The lantern burned softly. Outside, Balogun sat alone on the veranda, staring at the stars, as if searching for answers that would never come. The baby was awake, her eyes open, watching, calm, knowing. Funmi looked down at her. A slow tear rolled down her cheek. Then she whispered softly, "I see you." The baby did not blink. Funmi's voice dropped even lower. "I know who you are." She did not say the name. She did not need to. In the village, the elders would later say, sometimes a soul that has been wronged does not leave completely, not out of anger, not for revenge, but for truth, to be remembered, to be heard, to make sure that what was hidden is brought into the light. Titi had not come back to fight. She had come to speak, and she chose the only voice no one could silence, an innocent voice, because even the guilty will stop when a baby speaks. The truth does not disappear when you bury it. It waits. It will find a voice you cannot threaten, a voice you cannot ignore, a voice you cannot silence. Be careful what you hide, because the innocent always know. If this story touched you, don't just scroll away. Type "Truth always returns" in the comments if you believe nothing stays hidden. Like this video, subscribe for more powerful African stories, and tell me,
Where are you watching from right now? Your country might be featured in the next story. Until next time, remember, some stories are told to entertain, but some are told to warn.